This is the MC8 by Morningstar. It's an 8-pedal MIDI controller, but it can send multiple messages, in fact 32 messages per button press. Has a slew of connections for MIDI in, MIDI out, connecting expression pedals, and I've called it the Rolls Royce of a MIDI controller. Well, now that Rolls Royce has had a huge upgrade. Bigger, bolder, with huge screens, with more ports, and also this has got a feature that I have wanted on the MC8 for years, because this is the MC8 Pro. So I've got both of them here, and I've used this one for the RC5, the Boss RC600, the Headrush Looper board, and quite recently the Sheeran Looper X. But if you've got an MC8, do not panic, because Morningstar have done an amazing thing with their software, where you're getting a lot of the new features in the MC8 anyway. However, if you've been looking at the Morningstar pedals and you're on the fence about it, I'm going to show you the difference between the two and which one you should go for. TLDR, it's this one. So the MC8 Pro is a powerhouse, and we've got quite a few things to get through. First of all, we've got these 4 screens. I'm going to turn it on in a minute because I want to turn it round. So if I bring the MC8 out and just put them next door to each other, you can see the dimensions there. First of all, it's wider. It is slightly wider, but you've got these 4 glorious screens. And if I was to put these two together, the MC8 Pro is ever so slightly taller at the back, just slightly. So I'm trying to put it to the camera so you can see there, but it's ever so slightly taller. Where it wins by a couple of millimeter is depth, so it's literally about 1 to 2 millimeters less deep than the MC8. Configuration wise, we've got a couple of different things. Now, first of all, one thing that happened on the MC6 Pro, which I did a video all about, of course I'll leave a card up for you now, is TRS MIDI, and we've got the same here. We've got TRS MIDI on the MC8 Pro. We don't have that on the MC8. But just as a sign of the times, let me go through the main part, which is the back. So the MC8 is on the bottom, the MC8 Pro is on the top. We've got both MIDI in and out, 5-pin DIN. We've then got 9 volts DC, and that hasn't changed, but what has changed is the USB. This is USB-B, and that's it, whereas this actually has 2 USB ports. It's a device port and a host port. Then what brought the Morningstar up a notch than every other MIDI pedal is the Omni ports. So you can plug an expression pedal into here, or have an aux connection, or MIDI out, and because they're called Omni ports, they'll do any of them no matter which one you plug into. The MC8 Pro, of course, still has that. We still have 4 Omni ports there, but it also has is relay ports. Relay ports are if you need to switch things on and off that are analog, for example, maybe an amp or a pedal that isn't MIDI at all, so you can tell it to turn on and off because it's a relay switch. And then finally, the only thing is the MC8 can still take the latest firmware. They've just released version 3.13 for both the MC8 and the MC8 Pro. In fact, it goes all the way back to the MC3. The Pro's got a couple of extra features, and they've got an official video about that which explains it really well. I'll leave that in the description box so you can go and watch it. And that's kind of where it ends there for the MC8. Now, you saw in the intro there I had this switched on, and I did that with a battery pack. So I'm using that with the device option. So plug that in, give that a second, and as you can see, it starts booting up now. Now, this was just to show that you can actually put anything you want on the switches. So you can see I said subscribe to the channel, John Paul Music UK. Now, the feature that they've added onto this, which is a #1 feature that I used with the MC8, but you have to buy an extra piece of equipment, is low latency MIDI via Bluetooth. And now with the MC8 Pro, that's built in. So for those who actually use things like a WIDI jack, you don't need one specifically for this. You can still plug that into the TRS, no problem at all, if you wanted to control more than one thing. But the other big thing is because it's Bluetooth, you can use the Morningstar app, and you don't need any connections whatsoever because the device is Bluetooth, the MC8 Pro is Bluetooth, and it just connects. So I can go to the app, and the first thing will be devices at the top. So I can actually go to devices, and then you'll see it there. It says MC8 Pro, that's this one, and then it says it's not connected. So if I give that a tap, it's now connected, and when I go back to home, I can go to the live editor, and then I can connect it here, and there it is. So this is where you can see this is where you can see preset A is John, and then the preset B is Paul, preset C is music, preset D is UK, and it carries on like that. So if I go to presets at the top here, you can see what I put down. Next, I want to show you how you control the different banks and pages. Now, at this point, I actually haven't set anything up whatsoever other than just change the name on a couple of things. So written on the Morningstar is A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, but take that with a pinch of salt, because on these lovely screens here, you can see it says A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. But if I toggle the page by pressing these two together, which you can do quite easily with your foot, by the way. You can now see it says I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. And then we've got Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X. So there's 3 pages of buttons, which is 24 buttons per preset, and you've got 128 presets. So you could have presets for different songs, you could have presets for different devices. So you could have a preset for a specific song where you've got stop, play, record, set the tempo, anything like that. And then what we can do is we can bank up or bank down. So you can see this is bank 1, and then if I go bank up, it's going to go to bank number 2, and it's completely empty. As I've done this, by the way, the iPad is changing on its own. I'm just going to show you this together. If I bank down, you can see it says bank 2 there. If I just go like that, give it a second, and now it's loading bank 1. It has never been easier to kind of program one of these up because it's just there on your iPad. So you don't need a computer. You can even do this on a phone. So if you're at a gig and something's not working, or maybe you've got to program it up slightly differently, or program it on the go while you're on tour, this works really well. So I'm going to give you a quick rundown of how a single preset works, and then that way it is just the same across all the different presets. So let's go with preset A. There we go. I can tap at the top here. You can see preset A, B, C, D, all the way down, straight down to X. Plus, by the way, you've got 4 expression options. So if you imagine you put 4 different expression pedals on the back, then you can do that. So we'll just play with preset A for now. So with preset A, I'm just going to call this play. Now, anything you do on the iPad, then you need to click Save Preset, and that's when it will update on the Morningstar. By the way, you can do this all on the Morningstar itself, but it's much easier on the iPad. But if I just click Save Preset, you'll now see success. Now that's called play. I can then start playing around with what the background color looks like, because you can change the color. So let's just change the background color. We're going to give that a green color. There we go, and we'll click Save Preset. So now, there we go, nice and simple. We can then also say the text color. So the text color, I actually want that to be black. So we'll click Save Presets, we'll swap it round. There we go. Can you see how easy this is straight away? So we can have a toggle name and also a shift name as well. So you can, as you press it down and it toggles, maybe you toggle it on and off, you can do that. So if I give it a click, it's sending basically the information across. And then underneath that, you've got your messages. And I scroll through here and you've got 32 different messages. Now, most MIDI pedals, you probably want to send 1 message. So let's go with MIDI message number 1. We go to action and click where it says no action. Here's where you can see an absolute load of different things you can do. So you can press down the release, you can have a long press scroll, long press release, release all, double tap release, long double tap release, on first engage, send this only, or send only this, and then on disengage. So there's loads here, there's loads you can do with it. So what we're going to do is, we're going to do something really simple, and what we're going to do is we're going to go press. So when you press it down, what are we doing? What we want to do is go to this type, and the type here, this is where you can go absolutely crazy. So most people will want to do a CC change, but you've actually got loads. You've got PC, you've got multi-channel, you've got note on, you've got SysX, you've got MIDI clock, CC value control, device engagement, bank up, bank down, looper mode, and then also we've got Strymons and Morningstars and other things, that other devices it can control. You've even got keystroke at the bottom there, which is a computer keystroke command like an L or an M or an O. So you could use that to control your DAW. But for now, we're going to go with CC control. And as you can see, as I've picked up CC control, so as you can see now I've pressed CC control, the bit that you need is underneath. So they also have what's called the Open MIDI Dictionary. So you can open the MIDI Dictionary and there's loads of different companies in here. People have submitted what they are. So you've got things like Bosch, you've got Digitech, you've got Headrush, right down to Sheeran. So we can actually click Sheeran and then select the model, and people have actually programmed up the Looper Plus and the Looper X. So let's go to Looper X, and then it asks to select a parameter. And because people have put it in, you don't have to think about which one it is. So what I want to do is I want play, as in play all tracks. So if I go to select parameter, it's right at the top here, start, stop, all. It's actually a toggle. So it's figured out, actually, if you look underneath carefully, it's CC number 3, value 0. And if you look at the manual, that's exactly correct. So if I apply that, you can now see CC number 3, value 0 on MIDI channel 1. The process is now to repeat this and obviously do this for different things. So we're not doing this for message 2. What we're going to do is we're now going to click Save Preset. It'll save it successfully. And then we go to Preset B, I've got this written down as Paul. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write this down as mute, because I want that to be mute mode, and then I'm going to change the background to blue, so like it is on the Sheeran Looper X. Let's click Save Preset, and there we go, there's mute. So what I want it to do is go to on press, I want it to do a CC control, open the MIDI directory, Sheeran Looper X, it's remembered. So we're actually going to, instead of doing that, we're going to go mute all tracks, apply. So now I can just click Save Preset, and what it's going to do is it's going to do that. So as I press these, you can actually see on the iPad that it's doing it. You can even send test messages. Where it gets really interesting is you can actually send more than one message. So we can actually send up to 32 different messages. So maybe at the same time as muting, you're sending a message to a completely different pedal to change a delay, to change an effect, or you can send it to the same pedal. So on mute, what we're going to do is we're going to actually turn off effects number 1. So let's go to message number 2. Let's go to press. Let's go to CC control. Open the MIDI directory, we're still on the Sheeran Looper X, and we're going to go effects 1 toggle and apply that. Then we click Save Preset, and now this doesn't look any different, but you know that when you press mute on here, it'll mute all the tracks and it'll turn off that effect at the same time. So we've skipped forward a little bit, and then what I've done is I've created a bank for the Sheeran Looper X. So you can see the bank name there, you can see it's in edit mode, and then I've got play stop here, so it will play and stop all, and then we've got mute or unmute all, we've got record dub play, the mode button, which I've just put on there anyway, and then also what I wanted to show you as well is toggle mode. So I've used this with effects 1 to 4. So with effects 1, when you click it, you can see it goes a darker color, and that's because I've put toggle mode on. So I can turn toggle mode on and off actually on the iPad, and then save it as a preset. So you have to save that. And then you've got a position 1 and a position 2. So that's position 2, that's position 1. So if I were to turn all effects off, it goes a darker color because I've told it to be that color, and therefore it's a visual representation of it being off. If I then go back to turn them all back on again, there we go, straight away. Now I'm programming all this up for the Sheeran Looper X, which is just behind me, and I've just released the Sheeran Looper X course. It has over 45 videos that are not on YouTube, and we go from the very beginning and some really simple things to going to Ed setup, and then we go beyond Ed setup because I use it as a 1 mic setup, not 2 different microphones. I wanted to make sure that that course is kind of like the Looper X Bible, as it were, and you can reference it as much as you want. Now, whilst I was building the course, we had a big discount, and that discount has gone. However, I want to celebrate the course as it's now launched, and we're going to give you a 20% discount. So if you have a Sheeran Looper X and you want to have a look at things like this, we do talk about MIDI and controlling it with MIDI pedals, then there's a link in the description box which will take you to the Sheeran Looper X course. The code you need for 20% off the course is July 2025, which also gives you the hint of when that discount is going to end. Now, little tip for you, that 20% discount is a 20% discount site-wide. So we'll actually give you 20% off the RC600 course, the RC500 course, and my beginner's course for looping, which is called How to Loop Like a Pro. So if you want to learn the most about the Sheeran Looper X, and you don't want to spend hours trawling through the internet or YouTube, and you want it all in one place, then go and get 20% off my Sheeran Looper X course. Or if you've got the RC600, the RC500, or if you just want to learn how to loop, there's never been a better time. One of the things you can do, because the MC8 Pro has Bluetooth built in, is I can control Loopy Pro. So this is a profile that I've built. By the way, if you want this profile, just go to the link that's in the description box. It's also at the bottom of my website. And I've set up the MC8 Pro the way I want it. I did this all through the iPad. It's really easy to do. However, with Loopy Pro, there is no set MIDI command for anything. So what you have to do is you pretty much have to dictate what it is the other way around. So to keep this simple, I've got 8 buttons here doing 8 things. Now in Loopy Pro, the way you can set these up globally is going up to the top right-hand corner, going into where it says control settings, and you can see I've got a global profile. So if I go into there, that's where all the MIDI bindings are. So this is CC number 1, CC number 2, CC number 3, CC number 4, CC number 5, 6, and 7. And then tap tempo is actually global, so you don't need to set a binding to it per se. So on that basis, we've got no clock set. And by the way, the effect that I've got on the bottom, the reverb, is actually tied to the orange one. I can show you that there. So it's just there. Now, if you want to learn more about Loopy Pro, then I've got an entire playlist about Loopy Pro and how to get it up and running. That playlist has just come up in the cards now. So in order to make this work, I need to pair these up so they're talking to each other. So go to Bluetooth devices and give this a click, MC8 Pro. It's connecting to Loopy Pro, not the editor. I've made sure the editor's not on, and then click done. And then what I can do, if I go to next loop, you'll see a little white dot because it's selecting the next loop. So the very first loop is this one, and then we go next loop, it's going across, as you can see, it's going across, across, across. So I can go to the loop that I want to, and I can just start recording on it. Because there's no BPM set, I've not set a tap tempo, I don't need to, but I could do, then I can just hit record. Now I've got that reverb on there. Let's go over to the next loop. Okay, and then let's go to the next one. This one I want to set a double the length, so this is what these are for. Let me just show that to you. It's 96.36 BPM. So you can see here 1 bar. If I click double loop, it goes to 2 bars, or 4 bars, or 8 bars. If I click half loop, it's going back. Okay, so I can go to 2 bars, and then with this one, it's set to record over 2 bars. There we go. Now with the effects, as I said before, is on reverb, and I can just press that, and it's turning reverb off. It's toggled, so therefore I can turn it back on again, and we can start the whole session, we can stop the whole session. This is going to stop at the end of the loop, and I can start it again. Because this is completely wireless, I can have this somewhere else whilst that's on the floor, and there's no cable trailing from this to this. Yes, you're still going to need an audio interface, but it means that it's just completely free. Right now, all I'm doing is sending 1 message per button, but as I said before, you can send up to 32. Now, if you don't need the Bluetooth and you only need 6 buttons, then have a look at the MC8 Pro's brother, which is the MC6 Pro. That's the video that's just come up on screen. Go watch it and enjoy MIDI, as we all should, and be able to use it in the way we want to.